25,567. If you woke up this morning, looked at the ceiling, and just kind of wondered what true permanence looks like in a world that feels, completely disposable, well, that number is your answer.
It really puts everything into perspective, doesn't it?
It is staggering because 25,567 is roughly the number of mornings that Warren and Dorothy Selland of Horton have woken up as a married couple.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is exactly where we're starting today. So welcome to Daybreak. We're broadcasting live this Wednesday morning, August 5, 2026, right here from our little station on Commercial Street in Atchison, Kansas. I'm your host, and if you've got your morning coffee in hand, well, you are exactly where you need to be.
Good morning. And I just got to say, starting with a number like that, 70 years, it really sets the tone for today's deep dive.
It really does. Our mission today is a deep dive into the morning stack of news, literature, culture, but with a, very specific filter. We are completely skipping the partisan noise.
Well,
we're ignoring the internet drama. We are leaving the sensationalism at the door. If it's designed to make you angry just for the sake of a click, we just aren't talking about it.
it's exhausting anyway.
Exactly. Instead, we are looking at stories that actually matter to you. The local Atchison community, the revival of classical education, the quiet dignity of craftsmanship, great books, and the magic of old-time radio.
It's such a vital filter to have, and we have an incredible stat of sources today. Local reporting from the Atchison Globe now, student journalism from the circuit up at Benedictine College, some really profound philosophical essays from public discourse.
Yeah, those are great.
They are, plus engineering innovations from MIT and the latest from the Chesterton Schools Network. The goal isn't to just, read the headlines to you. It's to extract the underlying truth in these stories.
Right. So let's jump right into the local Atchison beat, because this notice in the Atchison Globe now this morning about Warren and Dorothy Selland celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary, it literally stopped me in my tracks.
It's just so rare.
It is. They were married on September 4, 1955, at the First Christian Church right here in Atchison. 1955.
Yeah.
The television remote control had just been invented.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and the polio vaccine was just being declared safe. Think about the cultural, technological, and social tectonic plates that have shifted since 1955. And yet, this vow held.
Yeah.
We throw around the word sustainability constantly today,
Yeah.
Sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, business models. But I look at Warren and Dorothy and I have to ask, isn't a 70-year marriage the ultimate, literal example of true sustainability?
Well, I think you have to define what you mean by sustainability there, because the modern use of the word is, it's actually quite different from what the Sellands have achieved.
How so?
Well, when a modern corporation talks about sustainability, they're usually talking about damage control. They're talking about managing resources so they don't run out, minimizing their carbon footprint, reducing waste. It's a defensive posture.
Okay.
70-year marriage is not defensive, it's generative.
Wait, explain the difference there. What do you mean by generative?
I mean that a marriage like that isn't just trying to, conserve a finite amount of affection they had back in 1955.
Right, like rationing it out.
Exactly. They didn't start with a tank of gas and try to make it last for 7 decades. They generated new life, new community capital, new stability for their neighborhood every single day through their physical, embodied presence with one another.
That is a beautiful way to put it.
Because to wake up next to someone for over 25,000 mornings requires a rootedness that completely defies the modern impulse. Our current culture tells you to constantly upgrade.
Right, trade it in.
Yeah, if a phone is 2 years old, trade it in. If a job gets boring, quit. If a relationship has friction, swipe left and find a new one. The Sellands are a living, breathing testament to the idea that true sustainability requires you to stay put and, actually work through the friction.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't get to 70 years without navigating massive amounts of friction.
Definitely not.
And that idea of staying put, of committing to a physical place and the people in it, that scales up, doesn't it? Because you see that exact same generative philosophy happening on a civic level in our next local story.
The match day event.
Yes, exactly. The Globe is reporting that next week, August 14th, is the 6th annual All Aboard Atchison Match Day. For those who don't know, this is 24 hours of local giving with $150,000 in matching funds for local nonprofits.
And notice the mechanism of that event, right? It's not a global GoFundMe campaign where you just throw $5 at a faceless algorithm.
Right.
It is distinctly local. It is the people of Atchison looking around their own zip code and deciding that The physical institutions in their town are worth sustaining. They're taking that localized commitment of a family unit, like the Sellens, and expanding it out to the neighborhood.
And I think the best example of that neighborhood commitment is in this piece from the Circuit. That's the student paper up at Benedictine. They ran a feature on the Cana House of Hospitality.
The Cana House is such a fascinating model because it is, it's fundamentally simple and yet so entirely countercultural.
Right. So the Circuit highlights that they are fostering community by serving warm soup and fresh cookies to guests.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first read that, I'll admit, a part of me just thought, okay, soup and cookies?
Yeah.
That's quaint.
Sure.
Like, it's nice, but is it really moving the needle in a fractured society?
Yeah.
But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized it might literally be the only thing that actually moves the needle.
Well, why did you change your mind on that? What is it about soup and cookies that elevates it beyond just being, as you said, quaint?
Because you can't digitize soup.
Oh, right.
You can't download a warm cookie. In a world where we're all desperately trying to build community in, like, Facebook comment sections or Discord servers, the Cana House demands physical reality.
Okay.
To get the soup, you have to walk through a door. You have to smell the broth. You have to hear the clatter of spoons and the laughter of kids. You have to look a stranger in the eye and hand them a cookie. It forces you into a physical collision with your neighbors.
And that physical collision is really the foundation of the Chestertonian ideal.
Yes.
G.K. Chesterton always argued that civilization isn't built in parliament buildings or corporate boardrooms. It is built around the local hearth and the dining table.
Exactly.
The Cana House of Hospitality operates on this premise that humans are not floating intellects. We have bodies, we get cold, we get hungry, we get lonely.
Right.
When you serve a bowl of warm soup to a guest, you are addressing all three of those realities simultaneously. It's an act of physical hospitality that no smartphone app can ever replicate.
It's the absolute antidote to digital loneliness. It's messy, it's noisy, it's real life. And it strikes me that this desire to build physical institutions that serve the truth and serve the community isn't just happening on a small scale with soup kitchens.
No, not at all.
If you look up the hill, Benedictine College is making an architectural argument on a massive scale that echoes this exact same philosophy.
You're referring to the new Moritz Library in Daniello Hall.
I am. The sources from Benedictine College outline their July 4th Spirit of America event. They had over 1,500 people show up for a preview of this building.
That's a huge turnout.
It is. And the official dedication is set for September 26, 2026. But here's the detail that is causing such a stir. The library is designed to architecturally mirror Independence Hall in Philadelphia.
It's an incredibly bold aesthetic and really philosophical choice.
Well, I want to push on this a little bit, though, because on one hand, I mean, it's visually stunning. But on the other hand, some critics of classical architecture in the modern era might say, isn't this just pastiche?
Right, like it's fake.
Yeah. Isn't replicating an 18th century colonial building in Kansas in 2026 just playing dress up?
Mm-hmm.
Why not build something sleek, modern, with lots of glass and steel to show you're looking to the future?
That is the exact question modern architectural firms always ask, and it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what architecture actually is.
Okay, how so?
Architecture is never neutral. It is always a physical manifestation of a society's deeply held beliefs. When you build a modern, brutalist structure out of raw concrete and asymmetrical glass, you are making an argument about fragmentation, utilitarianism, and a clean break from the past.
Like the building is just a machine to function in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are saying that the building is just a machine for functioning in.
So what argument is Benedictine making with Independence Hall?
They're utilizing an architectural vernacular that immediately communicates a specific set of permanent truths. By housing a library, which is the absolute center of academic inquiry, right, the place where truth is pursued,
Right.
By housing it in a building that echoes the birthplace of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, they are making a physical argument that faith, learning, and American liberty are permanently intertwined.
Oh, wow. I love that.
They're saying that true freedom isn't just the ability to do whatever you want. True freedom requires a morally formed mind. You don't build Independence Hall if your only goal for your students is to produce compliant middle management workers.
Right, just cogs in a machine.
Right. You build it because you believe a classical Catholic education is the prerequisite for a free society.
That makes a ton of sense. So it's not pastiche, it's continuity. It's saying that the ideas debated in Philadelphia in 1776 are the exact same ideas we need to be debating in the library in 2026.
Precisely.
And the college isn't just focusing on the mind. They're making equally massive investments in the physical body. The sources detail their aggressive push to open a proposed school of osteopathic medicine. They've already hired a preclinical dean.
This is a monumental undertaking for any college, really, but it is particularly poignant for a Catholic institution. And the fact that it is specifically a school of osteopathic medicine is definitely no accident.
Let's clarify that for the listener, because I think a lot of people hear medical school and they just assume it's all the same. But osteopathic medicine has a very distinct philosophy compared to traditional allopathic medicine, right?
It does. Allopathic medicine, which is the standard MD track most people are familiar with, tends to be highly focused on treating specific symptoms or diseases, often through pharmaceuticals or surgery.
Okay.
Osteopathic medicine, the DO track, was founded on the principle that the human body is a deeply interconnected, holistic system. Osteopaths receive special training in the musculoskeletal system, and their underlying philosophy is that you can't treat a symptom in isolation.
You have to treat the whole person.
Exactly, you have to treat the whole person.
Which perfectly aligns with the Catholic intellectual tradition.
It is a flawless alignment. The Catholic view of the human person insists that we are a profound unity of body and soul. We aren't just biological machines to be fixed, and we aren't just ethereal spirits trapped in meat. We are whole person. By building a library to heal and elevate the mind, and an osteopathic medical school to heal the body, Benedictine is addressing the totality of the human condition.
And the way the student body is supporting this medical school initiative is just incredible to me. They aren't just hosting bake sales.
No, they are not.
The students launched a 20 Rosaries in 20 Days campaign to pray for the success of the medical school. You have this rigorous, highly technical, administrative task of hiring deans and developing medical curriculum, running totally parallel to an intense spiritual campaign by 19 and 20-year-olds clutching rosary beads.
It beautifully synthesizes the practical and the transcendent.
It really does. And the proof of this philosophy is in the actual outcomes of the students. The sources provided several profiles of recent graduates and current students going out into the world. And it completely shatters a major stereotype.
Oh, the employability one.
Yes, because there is a lingering stereotype that if you go to a faithful, classical liberal arts college, a Newman guide college, you're going to graduate with your head in the clouds. Like, you'll be able to debate Thomas Aquinas, but you won't be able to hold down a job in the modern economy.
The unemployable philosopher myth, it's so persistent.
Exactly. But look at these names. William Edgar, a student doing a high-level internship in biomedical devices. He is literally working on the engineering of medical technology to improve lives.
Right.
You have Caroline Cunningham graduating summa cum laude and heading to St. Louis to do intensive medical research. You have nursing students traveling to Belize to do grueling hands-on mission work in clinics. And my favorite profile is Anna Campbell.
Oh, her story's fascinating.
It is. She was a track star at the college, and she has taken that discipline and parlayed it into a highly successful architecture career down in Houston.
Let's break down exactly how that happens, because to a lot of parents looking at tuition bills, the leap from reading Homer's Odyssey to designing a commercial building in Houston seems completely irrational.
Right. They want to see a direct line.
Exactly. Why does classical education produce such highly competent technical professionals?
Well, because you aren't just teaching them a software program that will be obsolete in 3 years.
Exactly right. When you teach a student how to think critically, how to parse complex arguments, how to communicate with absolute clarity, and how to understand the historical context of human needs, you are giving them the ultimate meta skill.
That makes total sense.
A student who has spent 4 years rigorously defending their ideas in a theology or philosophy seminar possesses a cognitive agility that you simply cannot teach in a standard corporate training module. Furthermore, let's look at Anna Campbell's background in athletics.
Okay, yeah, track and field.
Track and field requires an intense understanding of physical limitations, pacing, physics, and profound bodily discipline.
Which translates directly to the drafting table.
Precisely. Designing a building isn't just about making it look pretty on a screen. It's about understanding how physical bodies will move through that space, how the materials will bear loads, and having the endurance to sit at a studio desk for 14 hours to get a detail right.
Wow, yeah.
The classical model produces complete human beings, and a complete human being can master any technical skill required of them.
So if the classical model is producing such incredible fruit at the collegiate level, where does it start? Because a high school senior doesn't just wake up one day fully equipped to handle a Socratic seminar on Aristotle at a Newman College. They have to be formed earlier.
Right. And that brings us to what is arguably the most important educational story of the decade, which is the quiet, explosive renaissance of classical high schools across the country.
The numbers we have from the Chesterton Schools Network are staggering. They recently won the 2025 $1 million YAS Prize, spearheaded by their executive director, Emily DeRodstein.
That is a massive achievement.
For those who don't know, the YAS Prize is a massive deal. It recognizes truly transformative education. And this network has grown to over 80 schools worldwide, including a brand new one just opening up in Oregon.
It is a tidal wave of growth, and it is happening precisely at a moment when traditional public school enrollment is facing, frankly, catastrophic declines and crises of confidence.
Let me ask the hard question here, though. We live in an era of artificial intelligence, spatial computing, and algorithmic dominance. The future seems to belong to whoever can code the fastest or manipulate data the most efficiently.
Sure, that's the narrative.
So why on earth is a network of schools that focuses on ancient philosophy, Latin, and the Socratic method suddenly the vanguard of modern education? Isn't focusing on the lost tools of learning essentially going backward?
It only looks like going backward if you believe that the purpose of education is simply to turn a child into an efficient gear for the economic machine. Modern education, heavily influenced by mass industrial models, treats students as data points. They are evaluated almost entirely by standardized test metrics. We measure their worth by their ability to retain and regurgitate fragmented pieces of information.
Right, teach to the test.
Exactly. But in an age of AI, where a machine can retrieve and regurgitate information 1 billion times faster than a human, that model of education is completely obsolete.
That is a terrifying but deeply true point. If your only skill is data retrieval, you have already been replaced by a chatbot.
Exactly. And this is where the brilliant piece from Public Discourse by Joshua Pauling comes into play.
Oh, I loved that article.
The article is titled, Games Gone Wild. Pauling dissects how our obsession with metrics and gamification has completely captured our values. We've turned education into a video game.
It's so true.
You grind through boring assignments to level up your GPA, you collect badges in the form of test scores, and you try to beat the boss, which is, the college admissions algorithm.
And the tragedy of gamification is that it hollows out the actual joy of learning. You aren't reading Shakespeare because it illuminates the tragic flaws of the human heart. You are reading it because there will be a multiple choice question about it on Tuesday.
Exactly.
It takes the majesty of the universe and flattens it into a spreadsheet.
Which is why the Chesterton Academies are exploding in popularity. They completely reject the spreadsheet model of the human person. They focus on those lost tools of learning, reading primary texts, rigorous writing, oral presentations, logic, and philosophy.
Right.
But the engine of it all is the Socratic seminar.
I want to make sure everyone understands how a Socratic seminar actually functions, because it's not just a teacher lecturing at a chalkboard.
Not at all. The Socratic method is essentially guided dialogue. A teacher doesn't stand up and say, Hamlet is a play about a man who hesitates. Write that down.
Right. No spoon feeding.
Right. Instead, the teacher sits at a table with the students and asks, why didn't Hamlet kill Claudius when he found him praying? And then the teacher just waits.
Oh, I love that. The silence.
Yes. The 15-year-old student has to wrestle with the text, formulate an argument, articulate it to their peers, listen to a classmate disagree with them, and then defend or adjust their position.
It cannot be automated.
No AI can do that for you. It requires immense human presence, intellectual courage, and physical vulnerability to sit in a room and debate ideas face to face.
And there is a specific character component to this that the sources highlight. The Chesterton Schools Network specifically cultivates G.K. Chesterton's virtues: wit, clarity, and Christian charity.
Yes.
There is a line in their material that says they teach students to love people with whom they disagree. I read that and I thought, in the year 2026, with the internet being an absolute war zone of polarization, teaching a teenager how to love someone they fundamentally disagree with might be the single most countercultural revolutionary skill you could impart.
It is a superpower. If you can clearly state your opponent's argument so well that they agree with your summary of it, and then dismantle that argument logically while maintaining total charity and respect for the person sitting across from you,
you're untouchable.
You are impervious to the toxic manipulation of social media. You are a truly free citizen.
And this entire renaissance is being safeguarded at a structural level. The sources mention the Cardinal Newman Society's ongoing work. They are the organization behind the Newman Guide, which parents use to find faithful Catholic colleges.
I think it's important to explain exactly what the Newman Guide is doing because it goes far beyond just checking a box to see if a college has a chapel on campus.
Right, it's not just a surface-level thing.
The Cardinal Newman Society recognized a crisis in higher education where many historically Catholic institutions were slowly secularizing. They were keeping the name, but losing the substance.
Mission drift.
Severe mission drift. So the Newman Guide evaluates institutions on a rigorous set of criteria. They look at the theology department. Are they teaching infidelity to the magisterium? They look at student life. Do the dorm policies promote virtue or vice?
Right.
They look at the faculty. Is the majority of the faculty committed to the Catholic mission of the school? When a college like Benedictine secures its place in the Newman Guide, it is a hard-won badge of profound institutional integrity.
And the Newman Society is taking that same rigor and applying it to K-12 education with their Catholic curriculum standards, ensuring that this boom in classical high schools doesn't lose its soul as it scales up.
Exactly.
So we see this overarching theme emerging from the sources. Classical education, whether at a Chesterton Academy or Benedictine College, is fundamentally about treating the student as a whole, embodied human person.
Yes, embodied is the key word.
And that leads us directly to a cultural crisis that every single person listening to this broadcast is dealing with, whether they realize it or not, the crisis of embodiment.
This is the deepest water we will wade into today, but it is entirely necessary.
It really is. The Circuit recently published an article titled "Phone Ban. Let's Be More Than the Anxious Generation." It addresses the undeniable epidemic of anxiety, depression, and social fragmentation tied directly to our smartphones. We all know the statistics.
We do.
But to give this a deeper philosophical framing, we have to look at a brilliant essay featured in Public Discourse by Robert P. Imbelli. The piece is titled "Against Excarnation."
Excarnation. It is an incredibly heavy word, but it perfectly diagnoses the disease of the modern age.
Walk me through exactly what Imbelli means by it, because it's a jarring term. I don't think I had ever heard it used quite like that before.
To understand excarnation, you first have to understand the core claim of Christianity, which is the incarnation. The incarnation is the belief that the Word became flesh.
Right.
God didn't just send a message. He took on a physical, vulnerable, sweating, bleeding human body. He entered the muck and the geography of the physical world. Therefore, the physical world, matter, bodies, geography, is inherently good and dignified.
Okay, so excarnation would be...
Excarnation is the exact opposite. It is a flight from the body. It is the desire to escape the limitations, the awkwardness, the pain, and the mortality of our physical forms.
And we are doing this to ourselves through technology.
We are. When you spend 10 hours a day scrolling through a frictionless, curated digital feed, interacting with people as disembodied avatars, you are excarnating yourself.
Wow.
You are leaving your meat and bone body behind to live as a ghost in a machine. The digital world is sterile. If you make a mistake in a video game, you respawn. If you have an awkward text exchange, you can delete it or just block the person. It demands no physical courage.
This entirely changes how I view a school implementing a smartphone ban. When a Chesterton Academy or a college says, "no phones," my initial reaction used to be, okay, they just want kids to pay attention to the algebra lesson.
Sure, that's the practical side.
But through the lens of Imbelli's essay, a phone ban is not a classroom management tool. It is a profound, almost spiritual intervention.
It absolutely is.
It is a demand that the student return to their physical body. It forces them to inhabit the physical space they are in, to deal with the uncomfortable silence, to read the body language of the person next to them, and to exist in reality.
Because reality is where love actually happens. You cannot love a digital avatar. True love, in the Christian tradition, requires physical presence and physical risk. And I don't think there is a more devastatingly beautiful example of this truth than the story in our sources today from Chesterton College.
This story took my breath away. I had to read it twice. Chesterton College recently honored the heroic life of their former athletic director, Tom Vander Woude.
It is a story that demands to be told, especially in the context of this conversation about embodiment. Tom Vander Woude was on his property with his son, Josie, who has Down syndrome. By a tragic accident, Josie fell through a broken cover into a septic tank.
The sheer horror of that moment is hard to fathom.
It is unimaginable. But Tom Vander Woude did not hesitate. He immediately jumped into the septic tank after his son. The space was incredibly tight. The environment was highly toxic.
I can't even imagine.
Tom realized he couldn't pull his son out from above, so he submerged himself in the waste. He physically positioned his own body underneath his son to hold Josie's head above the muck so he could breathe.
Oh my goodness.
Tom held him there until rescue workers arrived. Josie survived, but Tom drowned. He gave his own life in the most horrific, agonizing physical conditions imaginable so his son could take a breath.
It is the absolute ultimate act of physical embodiment. It is love incarnate.
Now compare the profound physical reality of Tom Vander Rood's sacrifice to the excarnated, gamified digital world we were just talking about.
They're complete opposites.
The digital world promises us safety. It promises us endless, frictionless entertainment. It promises that we never have to get our hands dirty. But it cannot offer us love because love requires you to risk your flesh and blood.
Right.
Tom Vander Rood didn't send a digital signal of support. He didn't change his profile picture to show solidarity. He immersed himself in the literal muck of the physical world to save his son. That is the incarnational worldview in its most heroic form.
When you read a story like that, it puts our obsession with screens and metrics into such a devastating perspective. The idea of living your life as a passive consumer of digital content seems not just foolish, but almost offensive to the dignity of what a human being is actually capable of.
It strips away all the modern illusions. When you accept the profound goodness and the profound stakes of the physical world, the world where a father can sacrifice his life for a son, where a couple can generate love for 70 years, where students can gather to share a warm bowl of soup, you naturally want to interact with that world.
Yeah.
You want to shape it. You want to work with the physical materials of creation.
Which brings us perfectly to the dignity of working with our hands, the dignity of craftsmanship, of engineering, of the skilled trades. Because if we are going to reject excarnation and embrace our embodied reality, we need to know how to build things that last.
And there is a fascinating movement happening right now to heal the artificial divide between the intellectual and the physical in the world of manufacturing.
I saw this in the stack from engineering.com. They reported on MIT's TechMP program. The principal research scientist there, John Liu, is trying to fix stagnant productivity in U.S. manufacturing. And he used a phrase that I can't stop thinking about. He said he wants to create the nurse practitioner for manufacturing.
It's an incredibly illuminating metaphor, but we have to unpack exactly what he means by it to see why it matters.
Let's do that. Because traditionally, we have ruthlessly separated the thinkers from the doers. We have the white-collar engineer with a master's degree sitting in a clean office designing a part on a CAD program.
Right?
And then we have the blue-collar technician on the noisy, dirty factory floor actually trying to machine the metal. And often, there is a massive disconnect between the two. The engineer doesn't know the physical quirks of the machine, and the technician doesn't know the mathematical theory behind the design.
Exactly. And Liu uses the medical field as an analogy. In medicine, you have the doctor who diagnoses from charts and data, and you have the bedside nurse who provides the physical care. But a nurse practitioner bridges that gap.
Okay, I see.
They have high-level analytical diagnostic skills, but they are also physically present with the patient, feeling the pulse, noticing the subtle anomalies that don't show up on a chart.
That makes total sense.
Liu argues that American manufacturing is stagnating because we lack professionals who bridge that gap on the factory floor. We need people who understand the deep theoretical engineering, but who also have the hands-on, tactile, physical intuition of a master craftsman.
What's fascinating to me is that this is simply the application of classical education to the physical trades. Classical craftsmanship and classical education are ultimately the exact same thing.
They really are.
They both require a trained mind that understands first principles and a disciplined body that can execute the work in reality. When we divorce the mind from the hand, we get bad design and shoddy construction.
And you see the joy of integrating the mind and the hand happening in real time at places like the Fab Lab. The sources note they just celebrated their 25th anniversary with the FAP26 conference in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
The Fab Lab is a global digital fabrication network that grew out of MIT, right?
Yes.
So this is rapid prototyping, 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC machines. But what struck me is that they aren't just using these advanced tools to make plastic trinkets or useless gadgets. They are designing for profound human needs in the physical world.
The examples in the source material are deeply practical. They are using this technology to build localized hydroponic and aquaponic systems for food production. They are manufacturing customized antennas to build decentralized radio and data networks.
Wow.
They are designing modular physical shelters that can be rapidly deployed.
It's technology serving the common good. It's not technology for the sake of distraction or excarnation. It is deeply incarnational. It is using the highest levels of human intellect to ensure that bodies have food, shelter, and communication.
But to execute that level of craftsmanship requires more than just technical proficiency. It requires deep character. And this is where the engineering world is starting to sound remarkably like a Chesterton Academy.
How so?
Well, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME, recently published an article stressing that professionalism is key to career growth for mechanical engineers.
I read that and smiled, because they aren't talking about professionalism in terms of wearing a tie to work. They define it as building trust, demonstrating reliability, and proving adaptability under pressure.
Those are moral virtues. Technical skills might get you an interview, but whether you are designing a biomedical device in a lab or managing a complex manufacturing floor, your character is the actual foundation of your craft.
Right. People need to trust you.
The engineering sector is recognizing that they don't just need smart machines. They need virtuous, highly formed humans operating them. They need professionals whose word is their bond, who show up when it counts, and who are grounded in physical reality.
So we work with our hands by day. We build, we engineer, we serve our communities, but we also have to feed our imaginations. And ironically, the absolute best way to feed the imagination, the best way to avoid the excarnating passive consumption of the screen, isn't with more visual stimulation.
No, it's not.
It's with a voice in the dark.
We are talking about the theater of the mind, the magic of old-time radio.
Yes. Looking at the latest updates from the Chesterton Radio Substack and their YouTube channels, they are doing incredible work reviving classic audio drama. And there was a comment from a listener that I think perfectly captures the entire ethos of what we've been discussing today.
I know exactly the quote you mean.
The listener wrote, "The pictures are so much better on the radio."
That is a profound psychological truth.
Another listener shared that even their dog sits and stares at the phone while the radio plays are on. I had to laugh at the image of a golden retriever deeply invested in a 1940s detective story. But there is a real mechanism at work there.
There really is.
Here's how I see it, and tell me if you agree. Radio is essentially an auditory coloring book. The broadcaster, the voice actors, the Foley artists with their sound effects, they draw the black and white outlines of the story.
Okay, I like that.
But your imagination, your active intellect, has to provide all the colors. It makes you an active co-creator of the narrative. Television, on the other hand, just hands you a finished, hyper-stimulating painting and tells you to sit on the couch and stare at it. It renders you entirely passive.
That is exactly the distinction. When you are passive, your imagination atrophies. When you listen to a radio drama, you are actively exercising your mind.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the broader picture we've been discussing today, radio demands your patient, sustained attention. It doesn't scream at you with flashing lights and gamified notifications. It invites you into a shared space.
And the stories they are broadcasting are so rich with the themes we care about. They recently featured an episode of Lux Radio Theater called Miss Susie Slagles. It stars Joan Caulfield and William Holden.
It's a wonderful broadcast.
It's a beautifully told story about a boarding house in Philadelphia, specifically for medical students. And the core theme of the drama is about learning medicine not just as a lucrative career path, but as a sacred calling. Miss Susie is the landlady, but she acts as a mentor and a moral anchor to these young men and women learning how to heal.
Look at the thematic convergence there. You have a story about a boarding house fostering a deep moral community for medical students.
It's incredible.
That is essentially the Cana House of Hospitality meeting the new Benedictine School of Osteopathic Medicine, all wrapped up in a classic radio drama. It all connects because truth is cohesive. It's all about community, healing the whole person, and finding purpose.
It really does tie together. And then they featured a Saturday Night Theater broadcast called A Memory Longer Than Death, which explores how the past continues to shape the present. It's highly atmospheric, dealing with memory, loss, and the consequences of our actions.
Yeah.
And to prove that great stories transcend their medium, Thomas Aquinas College recently put out a podcast episode comparing Homer's ancient epic, The Odyssey, to the modern films of Christopher Nolan.
Because whether it's an ancient Greek poem chanted around a fire, a complex modern film about time and memory, or a 1950s radio play, the medium changes, but the human hunger for truth, narrative and redemption remains exactly the same.
That hunger is why the ritual of radio is so powerful. On Chesterton Radio, they have the Nightly Mystery every evening at 10:30 p.m. Central. The sound of E.G. Marshall's voice coming through the speaker, the creaking of a door, the wind howling in the background, it creates a shared atmosphere.
It does.
It's a daily ritual. You turn off the glaring screens, you let the room go dark, and you gather around a story. It's a return to the hearth.
It's a highly civilized way to end the day. It requires you to slow down and listen. And that, I think, is the final thought we can draw from this entire massive stack of sources today.
Oh, absolutely.
We live in a world that is desperate, absolutely desperate for your attention. The screens, the metrics, the gamification, the endless cycles of digital outrage, they all want to fracture your focus and excarnate you from your real physical life.
Yeah.
But as we've seen this morning, from a beautiful, generative 70-year marriage in Horton to the rigorous face-to-face Socratic seminars of a Chesterton Academy, to a father's agonizing ultimate physical sacrifice for his son, to the careful tactile craftsmanship of a mechanical engineer, the most beautiful things in life require quiet, embodied, patient attention.
They require us to be entirely present in the physical world God gave us.
Exactly. So the question to ponder as you go about your day-to-day is this. Are you letting your eyes grow dull to the ordinary physical wonders around you? Because the world is not lacking in wonders, it is only lacking in wonder. We have to learn to see the world again.
We have to learn to see the world again. What a perfect place to land. And with that, I will give you our required sign-off for the morning. Tonight on Chesterton Radio, enjoy a deep dive into G.K. Chesterton's book, Tremendous Trifles, https://u2, b8hy24ad4c8.si. JFATT5YA4KCP.
And please don't forget to check out the upcoming schedule. We have classic mysteries lined up every night, and of course, Saturday Night Theater this weekend.
We warmly invite you to visit Chesterton Radio, tune into the 224/7 live stream The Open Door, and subscribe to the Substack newsletter. Thank you for sharing your morning coffee with us on Daybreak. Do us a favor today. Step away from the screens, look someone in the eye, and maybe build something with your hands. Have a wonderful Wednesday, Atchison. We'll see you tomorrow.